Good morning, good morning. This is Monty, once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. As you may have guessed, I'm wiping down my car, listening to the weed blowers and weed whackers or whatever, the people who are blowing the dust and the leaves from one end of the planet to the other one. That's an interesting job. Otherwise, it seems to be very tranquil environment, morning so far. Not a whole lot going on. I don't think Kavanaugh is taking any more questions. I think Trump is weighing an additional couple of $100 billion in tariffs. So for all of us that have to buy gas and food and clothing, we're going to pay more money. Other than that, I guess he's doing a fantastic job, if that makes any sense, considering that he gave compelled a few companies to raise the wages, but that's being negated by the increases in the gas and the food and everything that you need to survive. So it's very, very interesting economics, if you will, in terms of what's coming out of Washington nowadays. So anyway, good luck with that. The way the math adds up or doesn't add up, for that matter. Other than that, what's happening? Let's see. Oh, Tesla. Elon Musk decides to smoke some weed on national TV. I think there was some particular interview or something going on, and somewhere during the program, I guess he decided to take a puff. It seems like he was in California or somewhere, I think in California, maybe where you could smoke weed legally, which may be all of California, now that I think about it. But anyway, he decided to take a puff. And in addition to all the things that he's going through right now, and I think he has a lot on his plate, even for him, he adds that to it. The idea that the CEO, who seems to be under mental pressure, above all else, he's pushing himself to the extent where, some are questioning whether or not he just needs to take a break and relax. And I think according to, who was it, what's her name? The lady who runs, she ran her own magazine, and it'll come to me later. But he was prompted by various individuals who know better as far as pushing themselves and running businesses and the stresses and strains that accompany all that. He was supposed, the advice was just to take some time off and consider sleeping, considering getting a rest or whatever. But I guess his ego may have gotten in the way. And anyway, in addition to all the stresses and strains of running those three companies, at least three companies, he's now smoking pot on national TV. Okay? Human resources person, I think, stepped down. And the chief accountant, I think, stepped down or didn't step down, basically just left the company, I think after like a month or something. So anyway, a number of people are questioning that. But that's not why we're here today. I'm just reviewing a few things just to give you guys some sort of idea of what the current events are and what's going on the bigger picture. Now, let me introduce myself. My name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. By the way, I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company, and we have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. And we do have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. And we have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or you can lay away as well. Let me turn my ringer off. I do not feel like being interrupted right now. Of all the times when someone would decide to call you, it would be like when you're doing a podcast or doing something important. Right now, all of a sudden, people have questions. Okay, that's off. Anyway, we have a large inventory of items you can, not only can you buy, but you can rent or lay away as well. Articles directory, huge directory of articles. You can read, peruse the articles, the podcast, the blogs, the videos, the demonstration videos. You're going to see probably an unparalleled collection of content that's very wide-ranging. Cybersecurity, economics and finance, health and fitness, surveillance and counter-surveillance, anti-terrorist related technologies and products. You name it, we're covering it. So I'm not just here to sell my company's products or just to promote my business, but we do want to make sure you guys understand. We want to raise the educational awareness. When all is said and done, what do we have left? We have our health, and hopefully we have financial independence and sovereignty. So make sure you understand what comes first: your health and your own mental well-being, mental and physical well-being. That's important. And then, if we can live long enough, maybe we can enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? And the fruits of your labor, the fruits of your labor, that really can be your health as well. So we don't want to confuse that issue in terms of putting too much emphasis on just the finances. Just make sure you understand also that you want to be capable of enjoying your wealth if you live a long time, if you're healthy, of sound mind and body. And also, while I'm at it, talking about the business or the website or whatever, I always have to include that we have the Bitcoin set up in the shopping cart. So convert your fiat, you smart individuals out there, the stupid ones I don't care about. Smart ones, convert your fiat into Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency. I recommend Bitcoin. And keep a certain amount of your holdings, 5 or 10% at least, in Bitcoin, and try to diversify a little bit eventually into some of the others, probably Litecoin, Ethereum, Bcash or something like that. Just for the sake of having the diversification and that increased exposure to the cryptocurrency market and industry. Okay, there's going to be some exciting things happening just as there is now, and you don't want to miss out on this burgeoning industry that's going to change the way we do finance and e-commerce and banking and everything else. So just giving you a heads up on that. Also, what else? We have to make sure you understand the problems associated with the typical financial industry. The traditional financial industry is one big chaotic mess. It's a steaming pile of shit, and it's stinking, and its stench is spreading like wildfire. And as you will be able to tell when I cover this particular latest article, it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. It's institutionalized, according to a quote. Sorry about that. According to a quote by some of the same people whose job is to regulate the financial industry. So when these people with that type of knowledge and authority, when they tell you it's institutionalized, you better start listening, because all of the culprits that you can think of in the banking industry are doing the same thing. You name it: HSBC, ING, Citibank, Wells Fargo, UMB? No, what is it called? Anyway, everybody that you can think of is actually has dirty hands. And see, the crooks and criminals, they don't really care what the name of your bank is. All they want is to have choices, so that when they start doing their illegal activities and illicit activities, they'll have some choices. So anyway, let's get into the article. Oh yeah, before I get into it, let me rant a little bit about the idea that we need to move away from the traditional financial industry, the MasterCards and the Visas and American Expresses, Discoverers of the world. All of these credit card issuers and merchants, merchant processors rather, all of them are conspiring to do as much damage, willingly or not, to the to e-commerce and entrepreneurship, and specifically when they extract the $70 billion plus annually out of our pockets in the way of charges and discount fees and settlement fees and batch fees and this type of fee and that type of fee. That's real money coming out of our pockets. It could be put to work in our companies or passed along to our customers in the way of savings, but it's not. And it's doing a lot of damage, and that means you don't get everyday low prices. You don't get the benefit of the rewards and such that we could give you. You don't get the free shipping or whatever perks that we could give out if we didn't have so much overhead. And it's just a mess. Let me get into this article, because we're going to talk about some very specific problems, and then I won't have to cover it twice. Okay, so let's see. Now the name of this article is what? Let's see. This article is entitled "Europe Goes Harder on Money Laundering with Record ING Fine." ING is a major financial institution. I think they're based in Europe. But again, Europe goes harder on money laundering with record ING fine. Banks worldwide are under pressure to clamp down on the trillions of dollars illegally flowing through their global financial system. Banking Group ING has agreed to pay a record European fine of $899 million to settle an investigation by Dutch prosecutors. Okay, let's see. Wait a minute. Let me make sure. Start all over. And, Banking Group ING has agreed to pay a record European fine of $899.8 million to settle an investigation by Dutch prosecutors into money laundering failings, as watchdogs scramble to staunch flows of illicit money after a spate of high-profile scandals. I think that's 775 million euro. 775 million euro equates to about $899.8 million USD. As prosecutors look into money laundering failings at that institution. Also Tuesday, Danish lender Danske Bank saw its shares tumble 6.5% following a report that local prosecutors had uncovered a higher than expected tally of allegedly illegal Russian money moving through its Estonian branch. Banks worldwide are under increasing pressure to clamp down on the trillions of dollars worth of illegal money flowing through the global financial system. Now, I have to highlight this particular sentence, mainly because it's letting you know that we're talking about trillions of dollars right now. And see, I unfortunately had to listen to this smug ass clown by the name of Jamie Dimon, who heads a company called J.P. Morgan Chase. And this ass clown had the nerve to talk about Bitcoin being its primary function being illegal or illicit funds. That's what its primary use was for, according to Jamie Dimon. Bitcoin is in Jamie Dimon's opinion, is responsible for nothing but money laundering, illicit gambling funds, and everything else going through Bitcoin, right? That's his primary use. But this ass clown doesn't even realize, or maybe he doesn't want to admit, that Bitcoin doesn't handle trillions of dollars worth of anything. Its market capitalization is not $1 trillion. So Bitcoin cannot compare or hold a candle to the amount of activity that is flowing through the banking system. The illicit amount of activity is rated in the trillions of dollars. Okay, so how can you say that this Bitcoin technology or financial payment system is going to be or is a major issue when the banking system is handling more illicit funds than Bitcoin ever will? At least in the very near future. Maybe in the far future, we may have problems that rate into the trillions. But right now, the market cap is not even in the trillions, so that's impossible. Anyway, moving right along. Let's see, where are we here? The U.S. has led the way in policing banks in the past decade. Since 2008, it has imposed around $23.52 billion in fines, according to consultants Fenergo, hitting lenders whose ineffective systems, officials say, have let clients launder money out of countries such as Mexico, Russia, and Venezuela. In contrast, European regulators and prosecutors extracted $1.7 billion over such breaches in the same period, including today's ING fine, according to the consultants. So just make sure you guys understand, since 2008, they have fined $23 billion. That's in the United States, and $1.7 billion been extracted by regulators in European regulators. So these are large amounts, but remember, if you're fining me as a drug cartel leader or something, if my drug cartel is going to pay you $23 billion, whether I'm in the United States or Europe, that's always a fraction of the total amount of money that actually got through. So, you have to be an absolute idiot or retard to think this is just like paying a tax. This is the cost of doing business. If we're laundering hundreds of billions of dollars annually as a drug cartel, then I guess we can afford to pay $23.52 billion to the United States. It's a tax. It's the cost of doing business. Or that $1.7 billion in Europe. That is minuscule. That's pocket change, considering the amount of money that you actually got through the system, right? Okay, so let's not be stupid, and let's make sure we understand how to put this shit in proper context. The EU's anti-money laundering laws are policed by a patchwork of local regulators, which critics say leaves it open to criminal abuse. Again, this is another situation where the criminals are taking advantage. If you have patchworks of anything, including regulators, the crooks and the criminals, they first identify where the patchworks are and what incompetent regulators or what regulators can be compromised and what inefficient systems where they are geographically and what states or countries or whatever. That's where you go and you launder the most money first. Okay, if you have a patchwork of regulators and you know it and I know it and the crooks know it, that's where we're going to go first to launder the tens of billions of dollars, so we can make sure we get some money through, as compared to going to those countries where regulation is very tight and very effective, right? So let's not pretend like there's not going to be coordination or a coordinated effort to find out how to take advantage of what's known as regulatory arbitrage, where regulation is most ineffective or inefficient. That's where you go first, not last. Okay, that's what they teach you in drug cartel money laundering 101 or anything else that's illicit for that matter. Okay, let's see, moving right along. More recently, local regulators have toughened their stance after embarrassing data leaks from whistleblowers on company money laundering and tax avoidance and criticism that the authorities had been too meek in pursuing such transactions. Well, look, all we have to do is understand that to find me as a drug cartel is one thing. To, put me in jail, that's quite different. So as you will see from the remainder of the article, fines have been issued, banks have been shut down, but no one has gone to jail. No one who runs the bank has gone to jail. No one who's actually money laundering has gone to jail. So it's like a fucking moot issue, basically, in terms of how you ultimately discourage or dissuade or punish people enough to not commit these crimes. And, we have to consider that the Bitcoin and the blockchain are formidable solutions to resolve this problem. Okay? Let's keep moving. ING shares fell 2.6% Tuesday following the announcement as Dutch prosecutors said it had been seriously deficient as a gatekeeper of the financial system. The bank, for instance, handled bribes paid by telecommunications company Venezuela Limited to the daughter of Uzbekistan's former president and didn't report the suspicious transactions to regulators for several years, the prosecutor said. In 2016, Amsterdam-based Venezuela, now called Dion Limited, paid $795 million to the United States and Netherlands to settle the matter. Okay, so again, you guys realize that these idiots are accepting payoffs. Basically, you can launder all the money you want, and eventually, when you get around to reporting this as an executive or a manager at a bank, you report it when it's convenient, and then you settle, and you don't even admit criminal wrongdoing. Okay, we can't do that as individuals or taxpayers. Only the people who with the banking license and the people who are trusted to safeguard and be gatekeepers of the financial system, those are the only ones that can get away with this shit. Okay, nobody admits guilt anymore. Nobody goes to jail. You just settle, and you settle for amounts that, again, are fractions of your total amount of money that you made. Other infractions range from poor client record keeping to helping a Suriname client launder money through electronic payment terminals. Danish authorities have been investigating Danske Bank since a whistleblower flagged issues at its Estonian branch in 2013. The Financial Times reported Tuesday that consultants had found that up to $30 billion of Russian money flew through the Baltic branch, far higher than previously thought. In a statement, Danske Bank said it wasn't able to verify the number. The bank expects to publish the findings of an internal investigation into the matter later this month. Let's keep moving. The main concern for investors remains whether the U.S. regulator becomes involved. Citigroup analysts said, so far, Danish and Estonian authorities are leading investigators, but U.S. involvement could see any eventual fines increase substantially, analysts said. Well, to be honest with you guys, I don't know if it matters so much whether or not U.S. investigators get involved or not. Again, if the fines increase substantially or not, if you don't ultimately discourage this type of behavior, and considering that, just these investigations alone go back to 2008, you're not discouraging the crime. Obviously, the profit is such that it continues, right? So again, unless people see someone go to jail, if the drug dealers see their partners and friends and associates go to jail, if banking executives see their friends and associates and peers go to jail or prison, that's discouraging. That tends to make you want to, do the right thing, or disassociate yourself from those who are not doing the right thing, because who wants to be sitting up in prison, right? But if your job is mainly to think of a clever way to settle it and then move on, while keeping all of the portion of your illicit profits that you obviously made as a result of the banking management and executives, then that's what happens. Okay, you're rewarded for arranging a settlement, while at the same time not admitting any guilt and not going to jail. U.S. authorities have already heavily punished European banks for failings in money laundering compliance. In 2014, French lender BNP Paribas SA pleaded guilty and paid $8.9 billion to U.S. authorities to settle charges it disguised transactions with clients in sanctioned countries. Britain's HSBC Holdings plc in 2012 paid $1.9 billion to settle U.S. charges that included allowing Mexican drug cartels to launder money through the bank. So again, every bank that you can think of, every major player and a lot of minor players are involved or have been involved, and this is almost like business as usual, or some normal type of transaction that flows through the banking system. The Danske Bank debacle highlighted ongoing concerns about what is seen as a particular weakness in Europe: Russian customers using Nordic and Eastern European banks to shuffle funds across the European Union. In February this year, the U.S. Treasury declared Latvia's ABLV Bank an institutionalized money laundering operation and cut its access to dollars. The bank closed down shortly after. Around the same time, Estonian Verso Bank AS had its bank license revoked by the European Central Bank after regulators found money laundering deficiencies. So I don't know whether or not it matters so much that you close down a bank in Estonia or Latvia. I think if you have money launderers or drug cartel people who are laundering $100 billion a year, and that eventually amounts to trillions of dollars in illicit activity, you're going to pay the fine. You're going to not lose very much sleep if one bank or two banks in the smallest countries in Europe, if they close down, Estonia and Latvia, that's not a major issue. You're going to look for other vulnerable, willing customers to help you get this money cleaned up. Whether it's Russia, whether it's Mexico, or whoever it is, it doesn't matter. These banks are disposable. The people are disposable. And ultimately, excuse the noise, ultimately you're going to get that money through the system, the financial system. And again, the proponents of blockchain, in the meanwhile, we have to listen to these dipshits and ass clowns in the way of Jamie Dimon, in the way of Warren Buffett's sidekick, Charlie Munger. We have to listen to other ass clowns. You name it. Everyone has chimed in with trying to spread the bullshit and the FUD about how, Bitcoin is not ready for prime time because the U.S. financial system and the regular banking system is so reliable and so responsible and is so efficient at doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And then we read these articles, including the latest one about Wells Fargo. The Wealth Management Department, again, Wells Fargo gets caught, and the people in the Wells Fargo Wealth Management Division are forging Social Security numbers, account numbers, names, addresses onto documents to circumvent the regulatory requirements. So, sorry about that. And this is in the United States. So, again, I don't know if it matters so much whether or not the United States gets involved or not in trying to help resolve the problems, because one of the major culprits that is in the news every single week is Wells Fargo. And, I've read tons of information about JP Morgan Chase and their money laundering fiascos, and HSBC and Citibank. Everybody has had their hands dirty. Everybody is complicit. Everybody is aiding and abetting in terms of the roles that they play. Sorry about that. In terms of the roles that they play in this, what they call institutionalized money laundering. Okay? Plain and simple. If you don't prosecute people, if you don't throw people in jail, if you don't set some examples, you are basically condoning and aiding and abetting a system that's ruining the United States economy, not to mention the European economies. You can't have trillions of dollars worth of illicit activities go on, no taxes paid, no real economic advantage. It just distorts the markets. It distorts the ability to price houses and to price stocks and everything else, because trillions of dollars will flow into those areas, and it will do a lot of disruption. So anyway, you don't have to be a Harvard graduate to figure out, even in a game of Monopoly, if I'm competing against you and you're winning using the rules of Monopoly, but I go and I'm talking about the board game of Monopoly. You're not supposed to go to the back room and print out a whole bunch of money and come back, and then you're able to dominate the game. So this is what we're up against. We're up against institutions and regulators and competent people who run banks and such, and they're allowing the circumvention of all the rules, and the markets are getting distorted, and the working people are getting taken advantage of and cheated, and it's just insane. So we need to completely throw out the traditional banking financial system and replace it with something, Bitcoin and the blockchain are transparent, immutable database in the blockchain, and all of the other advantages that it offers, decentralization and everything else. Because as you can tell from the article, and I'll publish it along with the podcast so you can see the details and everything else, that this system is broken, and it's one big smoking pile of dog shit. And that's basically my summation of that. So anyway, as we like to say at the end of every podcast, and you guys be careful out there. Keep your eyes and ears open, and we'll talk later. Have a good day. Bye.